Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyanam Jana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhavitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhescha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ajanuvambita Bhujokana Kavadatu Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksha Vishwambaro Dvijavaro Yugadharma Pala Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Yantah Pravishya Mama Vachim Mam Prasuptam Sanjivayata Kila Shakti Darasvadhamna Anyamscha Hasta Charana Sravanat Vagadi Pranannamo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam Svasyasti Vishwasya Kalak Prasidatam Dayantu Bhutani Shivam Mitodiya Manascha Badram Bhajata Tadoksaje Aveshyatam No Mati Apyahaytuki. So, Hare Krishna to all the listeners of this little seminar on Madhurya Kadambini of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And yesterday we started the description of this book by explaining Mangala Charana, which is very relevant to all of us. Revered author of the book explains that the mercy of Lord Chaitanya is like the shower of rain. And this shower of rain is capable of transforming our heart, which is now like desert due to the scorching heat of lust, of selfish desires. And he started from the first shower of rain, which is theoretical description of bhakti and general understanding what bhakti is. And the whole idea is to prove that bhakti is not of this world. Bhakti is Mahashakti of the Lord Himself, and by some amazing good fortune, we come in contact with this Mahashakti, which creates transformation of our heart from the very beginning, gives us energy, enlivens us, makes us very humble, and so many other amazing things happening under the influence of this Mahashakti, of this great energy of the Lord. And of course, his main point was how this bhakti comes to us. Bhakti is self-manifested. It's of the same nature as the Lord because it's direct energy of the Lord. It's his own manifestation, his Svarupa Shakti, the energy of his Svarup. So it has the same nature as the Lord himself. It means that it's self-manifested. There is no material cause behind its manifestation. Not our piety, not our good qualities is the cause of its manifestation. Only the mercy of the Lord, which is coming through the great devotee of the Lord. And we have to be very clear about this because sometimes people think they have bhakti. And at the same time, there is no change of the heart. The heart remains the same selfish desires are raging in the heart because they don't know the secret how to obtain the bhakti. Bhakti can only be obtained by the mercy of a devotee who is partial, and he can give his mercy to somebody, and he doesn't have to give it to everyone. He can give to somebody whom he likes. Like today I was listening Srila Prabhupada's lecture, and it's a public lecture for outside people. And at the end of the lecture, he looks probably at the boy, a very young person, and asks, "Oh, you're coming second time. You're a real devotee. You came alone without your parents." Oh, very good, very good. So that's the mercy. All of a sudden, Srila Prabhupada picked up one person from the audience, and it is very clear from the tone of his voice and everything else that he's very pleased, without any reason, causelessly pleased. So bhakti within the heart of a pure devotee starts acting, and for sure it will have an effect on this particular person. And we have to be very clear that that's the way. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya, bhakti is only coming from heart to heart. It's an infectious disease which can be obtained only through the very close contact. You cannot download bhakti from the internet. You cannot search bhakti by Google. You know, Google is not a suitable instrument to get bhakti. Internet is not really giving you bhakti. It may give you some sort of, surrogate form of bhakti, some pseudo bhakti, which may even look a little bit like bhakti, but in reality, it's the transformation of the heart from the very beginning, and that's what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained in the first chapter of this book. And the whole point of this first chapter is to make us ekanta bhaktas, to give us this understanding that bhakti is the most valuable thing in the world. And there is absolutely no use of wasting our energy and time pursuing some other goals. It's a complete tragedy. And therefore, he ends this chapter with this very stern statement from Srimad Bhagavatam that somebody who is not engaged in bhakti, he's less than human. He's an animal. So that's a very fanatical, sectarian statement, but that's the way we are. To make us understand, to make us clear, to give us the bold that this is what we're supposed to do. we should try to obtain this amazing energy of the Lord. And we should do whatever is within our power to get in touch, in contact with this energy. So the second shower is second chapter of this book, second shower of mercy of Lord Chaitanya, describes Shraddha, faith. It describes Sadhu Sangha, the association of devotees, and it describes Bhajana Kriya, initial stage of Bhajana Kriya, which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states is inevitably unstable. To distinguish it from the Nishta stage, where our Bhajana Kriya or attempts to serve the Lord become stable. He doesn't call this, Srila Rupa Goswami does not call this third stage bhajana, because it's not bhajana yet. It's bhajana kriya. It's some sort of something similar by form, but not the same by essence. It's kriya. It's an attempt to do bhajana. It's not bhajana. It's not service to the Lord yet. But it's something which looks pretty similar to the service, therefore it's called Bhajana Kriya. So these three first stages mentioned in these two verses of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami are described in great detail in this second chapter of Madhurya Kadambini, and we will start with this Adau Shraddha. In the beginning, there should be Shraddha. The devotional service starts with Shraddha, and not any Shraddha, not any faith, but a very specific kind of faith which contains inside prema, which is actually the partial manifestation of prema, which is a little particle of prema, as we spoke yesterday. Because there are so many varieties of faith in this world, Lord Krishna, by describing different kinds of faith, he said, Shraddhamaya yam purusho, every living entity, every human being consists of faith. Our existence is based on faith. So faith is not a big achievement. And when Srila Rupa Goswami says, Adau Shraddha, in the beginning there is faith, he clearly means certain kind of faith, and we have to really understand. It's not that we, we become complacent and say, yeah, I have a faith. Everyone has faith in something. What is the nature of our faith? This is what we should very carefully analyze with the help of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and distinguish whether we have genuine faith or it may be mixed faith or maybe material faith. So let's do it, and it's a very important and interesting exercise because it may shake us and take us out from this complacency which we as conditioned living entities we tend to be situated in. So basically it's interesting, the etymology first of the word Shraddha, which is not mentioned by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but nevertheless is important for us. It's coming from these two roots, Shrat and Dha. Shrat means the same as Sat. And Sat basically means existence. Sat means truth. Of course, there is another explanation of the etymology of the word Shraddha, where Shrat means Hrat, Hrit, the heart. But let's take the first explanation, that Shrat is derived from the root Sat, existence. Shraddha, and Dha means, of course, from the root Dri, to hold, to uphold, to support. So the first explanation of the word Shraddha is something which helps us to continue with our existence, which supports or upholds our existence. It's a very interesting concept, because we can see in reality that Shraddha or faith is basically reproducing our way of existence. Everyone has, and that's what Krishna means when he says in Bhagavad Gita, Shraddha Mayayam Purusho, that everyone has some faith, and this faith reproduces the same sort of existence. He believes in certain things, he does these certain things in which he believes, and in this way he reproduces his situation in the existence, in this material world, and therefore he is stuck in the particular combination of the gunas. And the mechanism for this is Shraddha. He believes in it. Everyone believes that he knows how to live. It's amazing. Somebody may be a completely degraded person, he may be a bum in the street, and nevertheless, if you talk to him, he will try to convince you that this is the way to live. This is the proper way to live. And he will have some arguments, very convincing arguments, at least convincing for himself, not necessarily for anyone else. And everyone has some defense mechanism which protects the way he lives. Whether it's, Rajasic person, Sattvic person, Tamasic person, they all exist or live the way they live because they have Shraddha. And therefore, this concept, Shraddha or Sat-dha, is very important, something which maintains our existence. If we take the meaning of the word Sat as truth, then we get a completely different concept of faith, which we actually are seeking for. In the higher sense, Shraddha is something which helps us to hold the truth or to be connected with the truth. The real Shraddha, which we are talking about, not the conventional Shraddha which everyone has, is the desire to be connected with this truth, the understanding that the truth exists and the truth upholds our existence. That's the other thing, and the other explanation of this word Shraddha. And if we take the root Shrat as Hrat, heart, then Shraddha means basically the conviction within our heart. This is Shraddha means where we invest our heart, where we place our heart, because Dri means to place upon. So, if we believe in something, we invest our heart into the thing which we believe. If we really have a strong faith, we will really put our heart in what we believe. So that's the concept of Shraddha according to Sanskrit etymology. And of course, Krishna himself in Srimad Bhagavatam in 11th canto, he says that there are 4 kinds of Shraddha. Sattviki Shraddha, and he says Sattviki Shraddha means Adhyatmiki Shraddha. Sattviki Shraddha means the faith in something spiritual. Adhyatmiki means something spiritual. Like if we take New Age, these people, they believe in something spiritual. They may not know what is this spiritual, but they do have some belief that there is something spiritual. Therefore, they call themselves spiritual people as opposed to religious people who are lower class of people. So it's sattviki, it's material phase in something spiritual, not necessarily something very clear. And then Krishna says that karma shraddha to rajasi, that if you believe in karma, if you believe in your ability to act, in your ability to achieve success, in your ability to become happy by your own actions, then your shraddha is rajasic. And if you believe in adharma, that's tamasic shraddha. If you really believe that you become, basically, this is the belief how to become happy. If you believe that you become happy by some sort of esoteric practice, which is in connection with something spiritual, your shraddha is sattviki. If you believe that you become happy by your action, your shraddha is rajasiki. If you believe that you become happy by doing some sort of adharma, and you insist that by doing adharma, this is the way to live, this is the way to ultimately achieve happiness, even though you again and again and again are baffled in your attempts to become happy by this adharmic means, improper means. If you believe in it, then you have tamasiki shraddha. But Krishna says, matsevayam tu nirguna, but if you believe in my service, matsevayam, not in me. That would be, if we just believe in God, it's sattviki shraddha. But if we believe matsevayam in service to Krishna, to very concrete form of the Lord, matsevayam to nirguna. This is nirguna kind of shraddha, which is being described in this particular chapter. Let's go further. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur starts this chapter by mentioning that there is another book which is called Aishwarya Kadambini. But this Aishwarya Kadambini is not... and it's interesting why he mentions this. He says that in Aishwarya Kadambini he is defeating Mayavad philosophy, which is very important for why he's mentioning this book in Madhurya Kadambini, because before we really get the sweetness, the showers of the sweetness of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, before we understand this concept of the sweetness, we really have to remove this main obstacle for devotion, which is Mayavad philosophy, which precludes us to obtain the shraddha in the service of the Lord, because according to Mayavad philosophy, there is nobody to serve, because I am the Lord. Service is not real, service is Maya. So we cannot really obtain shraddha in the service of the Lord unless we are converted into a devotee. And because we're all Mayavadis, we're all little Mayavadis in our personal dealings and everything else. Therefore, this book, which unfortunately is lost, would be very important beginning. Before starting with Madhurya Kadambini, we should clearly study Aishwarya Kadambini, or understand that God is real, and we are tiny small particles, and therefore our devotion or service to the Lord is also real. But anyway, going further from this, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes immediately, it's a very concentrated book, so therefore please bear with me. I'm not going to rush in explaining this book, because every word is full of meaning of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So he says that first and foremost, what is happening when we obtain Shraddha is that our Shraddha the first statement which he makes after that is that the bhakti appears in the field of the senses. It's a very important statement. In the invocation, he says that the bhakti should nourish the field of my heart. But here he's more specific. He says that bhakti first appears in the senses. What does it mean? It means that the senses change its nature. Because now, at this moment of time, our senses are habitually connected with the matter and have the taste for matter. And when bhakti makes its appearance, it makes its appearance in the senses, and there is already, from the very beginning, transformation in our senses. Our tongue develops different taste. Before we used to, some of us used to like meat, and all of a sudden we're disgusted with the taste of meat. Our eyes are habituated in enjoying certain scenes or certain forms, and all of a sudden we kind of lose interest in this. So bhakti immediately from the very beginning start changing our reciprocation with the world, because senses is the channels through which we reciprocate with the Lord. So he says, he makes the first statement, bhakti appears in the senses, and devotees, and its root, the root of this bhakti, immediately in the field of the senses, when the bhakti takes his root, her root, in the field of the senses, the root of bhakti is this desire to do something favorable for the Lord. So that's connected with the previous statement when we said that Nirguna Bhakti, Nirguna Shraddha is Shraddha in the service of the Lord. So what happens when we get in connection with, when we get in touch with this energy of the Lord, immediately some strange desire to do something for the Lord, something favorable for the Lord, appears within the senses. We get some sort of attachment. It's amazing, like people, they touch or taste prasadam for the first time, and then immediately they get some attraction to this taste of prasadam. It means that there is some change in their taste. And the senses, because taking prasadam is the service to the Lord, so immediately little desire to do something favorable for the Lord, to take his prasadam, appears in the senses from the very beginning. So that's where we ended our class yesterday, when Prangovinda Prabhu asked about this, what is bhakti. So from the very beginning, the root of bhakti, or root of Shraddha, from the very beginning, there is some sort of anukulyatmaka, or desire to do something good for the Lord. And this desire to do something favorable for the Lord, it fully blossoms on the stage of bhava, and it takes forms of three desires. Vishaya anukulyatmaka, I told it last time, but I will explain in a little more detail today. Tadanukula anugata tat spriha, and tadanubhava hetulla samaya jnana vishesha priyata. So he says that, and this is again from the very beginning. What is love? And Shraddha is an atom of love, an atom of prema. First, when we love somebody, the first desire appears in our heart. We want that this person would be happy. We wish him well. In this way, the hatred is the opposite of love, because when we develop some hate, we wish somebody else bad. We really wish that something pretty cool will happen with him, something inauspicious will happen with him. But if we develop some little attachment, in this case, some little attachment to the Lord from the very beginning, then anukulyatmaka, the very essence of this feeling is that I wish that he would be happy. He would be happy with me. Like, for example, love of the Lord is a very high concept, but if we develop some love, if we develop some sort of, not even love in the beginning, but some sort of respect to a devotee, to a spiritual master, to a sadhu, and then the first is desire, let him be happy. Let him be happy with me. Let me do something which will be pleasing to him. And then, but that's little, first, just general desire, let him be happy, let something good happen to him, let him be, let him be happy. But then, tadanakulya anugata tat spriha, when we want to come closer to him, we have desire, tat spriha, to do something which he will like. When we get some attachment to somebody, then it's natural to develop desire to be near him and do something which he will like. And then the natural outcome of it is the third desire, tatanubhava hetulla samaya jnana vishesha pri. Jnana vishesha. The special anubhava, the special experience of jnana vishesha, the special understanding, which is ullasamai, which is very, very exciting. The feeling of excitement which we get when we see that he is happy. He is happy and we become excited because he is happy. So this is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. From the very beginning, when we come in touch with bhakti, this sort of attitude towards the Lord develops in us. We know that the root of material existence is vaimukata, the indifference to the Lord. We turned away from the Lord and we basically don't care. We only care about ourselves. So bhakti from the very beginning turns us towards the Lord, and this very soft feeling appears in the heart. I wish that the Lord would be happy with me. I wish to do something which will be pleasing to him. And when we experience that he is really happy, we become excited by his happiness with us. We're doing something which he likes, and we become happy because of this. So, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the beginning, he says that the devotee becomes Madhuvrata and Riddhavrata. He understands that this is what I'm supposed to do. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to waste my time for anything else. This is what I want to achieve. I want to do something which will be pleasing to the Lord, and I want to experience this happiness. Like Srila Jiva Goswami, who explains this in great detail in Bhakti Sandarbha, he says that ultimately the ultimate goal of life is happiness. But bhakti is a very special way to obtain happiness. It's the way to obtain happiness, but making somebody whom we love happy. And this is the most powerful way of obtaining happiness in this world. Then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that then the bhakti, when this bhakti comes in touch with our senses in this way, grows in the field of our senses, then it acts like sparshamani, like touchstone, like the philosopher's stone, which turns iron into gold. The iron of our senses, which are now attached to abominable things of this world, to abominable enjoyments of this world, to drugs, to sex, to meat, to all kinds of stuff, they change the nature. And that's the miracle which happens with everyone. You know, sometimes we tend to underestimate the extent of the transformation which already has taken place within our heart. It's definitely the mercy of the sweetness of the Lord coming to us through the disciplic succession, through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And it's also interesting that in Sanskrit, the word priti, it's you cannot say like in English or in Russian, I love the Lord, when the Lord is an objective case. In Sanskrit, we can only say, I love in the Lord, or my love is in the Lord. It's in locative case in Sanskrit. So basically, the love appears within our heart, and we place it within the Lord, and we want to see Him happy. This is what it is. And this sort of happiness, or this sort of experience, this sort of bhakti, we can only get from the heart of a devotee. That's a very important point to reiterate from the last chapter, or from the last lecture, that bhakti changes the heart, which is completely used to obtain happiness, but being happy ourselves. This is how we are programmed. We think that the only way to become happy is to behave in such a way that, you know, my senses are pleased. That I am happy, my senses are pleased. This is the happiness. So immediately when we come in contact with bhakti within the heart of a devotee, this change takes place. And we should definitely read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita to see how it works. The devotees who came in contact with Srila Prabhupada, they saw and experienced his complete selflessness. And because this selflessness was so touching to their heart, then this revolution within the heart, this complete change of the heart also took place within their heart. They saw how he behaves, how he is completely absorbed in his desire to serve his spiritual master, and his desire to serve other people, and his desire to serve the Lord, to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya. When they saw this complete, total selflessness, purity of the heart, and at the same time experienced the happiness which Srila Prabhupada himself experienced. Because by doing this, you obtain this happiness, which is there in the Lord. You know that the Lord is pleased with you, therefore you're pleased and you're completely happy. So by coming close and seeing this, we can get this transformation within our heart, and the resolution will come within our heart. I also want to be like this. And that's why we cannot really get bhakti from any other source. We have to have this experience. Like Prabhupada, in the beginning, he was washing he was cooking, he was leading the kirtan, he was giving the lecture, and then he was feeding everyone, and then everyone would leave and he would wash their plates. He was doing everything from beginning to end, without even saying anything that, please help me, who you think you are just dirty hippies, help me, pure devotee. No, he was just doing it. And then ultimately, after few months, somebody approached him and said, maybe I can help you. And Prabhupada says, yes, I was waiting for it. When somebody comes. But this is how it works. First, you have to have this experience, and then it means that bhakti already touched your heart. And it means that the seed of bhakti is there. Therefore, from the very beginning, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, this is the root. The root of faith is this selflessness. Whatever little selflessness we obtain in the society of devotees is our great fortune. If we stick to our desire to, keep our selfish attitude, then this is our misfortune. But it's also very important at this stage, even though we only studied one sentence from the second chapter of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, second chapter of Madhurya Kadambini. At this stage, it's also very important to understand that the seed which we obtain may be of different nature. Sometimes people, from the very beginning, they come to bhakti movement by, coming in contact with somebody who may not be so pure. And they get some shraddha, some faith in bhakti. They may even start chanting Hare Krishna mantra. They may even start following some regulative principles. But from the outset, from the very beginning, they have a different desire, not desire to please the Lord. They start doing this because they have some sort of selfish desire to fulfill. Because they were preached in such a way. I know sometimes I hear very strange preaching techniques, Once I was in one gathering of devotees, and they were explaining how by practicing bhakti all their material desires were fulfilled, and they were cheering and inspiring others. Let's do bhakti. Bhakti is great. It's very good. One Mataji, enthusiastic Mataji, came and she said, I was so miserable before I became a devotee, and now all my desires are fulfilled. Hare Krishna ki jai. So that means that there is no touch with bhakti, that the seed is different. It's a genetically modified seed. It's not really bhakti, it's GMO. Srila Rupa Goswami calls this sort of bhakti or seed of bhakti or faith, pratibimba abhas or chaya abhas. Pratibimba, especially pratibimba, is when we come with some other desires. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Bhakti Tattva Viveka, he stresses one point. He says, it's a very serious mistake to think that pratibimba Shraddha with the desire to achieve something else can be turned into real Shraddha just by practice of bhakti. It will never be turned into something else. It will always remain pratibimba, and we will only practice bhakti to obtain either bhukti or mukti, either material enjoyment or mukti, liberation. So therefore, again, the association of devotees is the only way to obtain real Shraddha. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. We have to see it, we have to experience their dedication, their absorption in bhakti, and their happiness in being absorbed in bhakti, and then only we can obtain real faith. So, having said this, and it's basically very important what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in the beginning. He says that bhakti is like sparshamani, the touchstone, because the idea is that bhakti and only bhakti can completely transform the person. And we can see it and experience it, that the selfish person, of course, the famous example is Mrigari the hunter, who was transformed by bhakti of Narada Muni, by coming in contact with Narada Muni. But the idea is that when we love somebody, even in the material sense, we come close to this person, and this love or desire to please this person forces us to manifest the best qualities. The change takes place in our heart in a very natural way, because we want to please somebody, and therefore we behave in a very nice way. And, for the time being, he or she doesn't know that we have some other qualities. Then we lose this love, and then some other qualities of ours also become manifested. That's how we cheat. But in this case, the idea is that we come in contact with the Lord. We have some initial attraction to Him or to His representative, and then we come close to Him and we start manifesting our best qualities. And we don't manifest our bad qualities. We really know that we should not manifest our bad qualities. And ultimately, this becomes our nature. If we are long enough in contact with the Lord, with bhakti, with the representative of the Lord, then our nature will change, because we will only manifest the best qualities. And therefore, having said this, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he develops this metaphor. The first is we have the field of our senses. The seed of bhakti comes to the field of our senses. It takes the root. The root is the desire to please the Lord, and then it sprouts, and the first two leaves unfold from this sprout, and this first two leaves is Kleshagni and Shubhada. I will not explain in too much detail about this Kleshagni and Shubhada, because it's quite well known. And this Kleshagni and Shubhada is explained in the Nectar of Devotion, these two things. But a few important things Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds to this description. We all know Kleshagni is the destruction of clashes or the causes of suffering. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, as well as Srila Jiva Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, they take the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali to explain what is clashes. Avidya, Raga, Dvesha, Avidya, Smita, Raga, Dvesha, Abhinivesha. The 5 clashes, 5 causes of sufferings. And the idea here is that we all have this, how it is called in Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, the field of ignorance. And the seeds of our karma are growing in this soil of ignorance. Within our heart there is this avidya, the totally covered knowledge, the knowledge which is completely wrong, perverted knowledge, avidya. Avidya is a perverted sort of knowledge. It's not the lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge would not be so bad. Avidya is a perverted knowledge. We do have knowledge about ourselves, but it's completely wrong. Knowledge about our happiness, about purity, impurity, about eternal, non-eternal. So this is all avidya, the seeds of our karma growing on the soil of avidya because it's so fertile. And there are so many seeds, and we always harvest the crop of our karma, which is growing in the field of avidya. And the idea here is that kleshagni means that by practicing bhakti, pure devotional service, if it's pure, if it's not mixed with jnana and karma, if it's not mixed with other desires like pratibimba, if it's really pure, then it will remove avidya completely. The other paths of spiritual understanding, they may remove certain desires like jnana. You may become free from desires, but avidya remains. Or yoga, other paths of spiritual realization, they will not give you the complete removal of avidya, but according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and of course Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, aprarabdha palam papam kuta bija palon mukham kraminaiva praliyata Vishnu Bhakti Ratatmanam. Bhakti to Lord Vishnu gradually, kramena eva, praliyata, removes everything, all kinds of karma. Aprarabdha palam papam kutam bija palon mukham. That's pretty clear and pretty known thing. But what is more important is second leaf, which is coming little later. In the beginning, we experience this relief from karma to a certain extent, gradually, according to the intensity of our practice of bhakti, we feel relief of karma. We feel that we become less and less dependent on the sinful desires which are still there. They may be there, but we really feel that there is a relief. We are not so controlled by these desires, by these sinful thoughts, which is the manifestation of our karma. But little later, the second leaf starts unfolding, which is Shubhada, the obtaining auspiciousness. The auspiciousness come to our life due to bhakti. And this auspiciousness is coming in the form of developing new qualities. The old qualities which are the result of our karma, previous karma. If this is bad qualities, bad habits, they become weaker and weaker and weaker. They stop controlling our lives. Some good qualities which we may have, functional qualities may still be there, but we only use these qualities. We are not the slaves of these qualities obtained by karma. We are not the slaves of karma. We are masters of our karma. We only use something which is useful for devotional service and don't use something which is useless for devotional service. But what is more important is that because of the practice of bhakti, and this is again indication, this is a very important indication whether we are practicing bhakti or not. In the beginning I said that this desire to please the Lord is a very important indication whether our Shraddha is real. Shraddha again doesn't mean that we believe in God. Shraddha doesn't mean that we believe in Krishna. Shraddha means that we believe that I can become happy by serving the Lord. And this is the only way to become happy. This is what Shraddha. If we believe in this, that I have to really put all my energy in the service of the Lord, starting with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, then we have some Nirguna Shraddha. But the next indication is, of course, we feel relief from our karma. And the next indication is this Shubhada, when the new quality appears to us, new qualities appear to us. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he lists these qualities. Shubhani. What is Shubhani? What is the good fortune which we obtain by practicing bhakti? It's a very interesting list. It's the list of 11 qualities, which he, of course, elaborates, or this is his explanation of Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavatira Kinchana, Sarvair Gunais Tatra Samasate Surah, this verse from the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that whoever has a Kinchana Bhakti or pure Bhakti, all the qualities of the demigods come to him. So what are these qualities of the demigods? Or the qualities of the Supreme Lord himself? What are these qualities? How the good fortune descends upon us by practicing bhakti. It descends upon us because we develop naturally, not in an unnatural way. Naturally, these qualities appear within our heart. We don't endeavor to obtain these qualities, but we have to know about these qualities, because if these qualities somehow or other do not appear, do not develop within our heart, it means that we are not practicing pure bhakti. We are practicing something else, but not pure bhakti. Pure bhakti means durvishaya vaitrishnya. First, the first quality of or the effect of pure bhakti is vaitrishnya, the lack of thirst. We are not really thirsty, durvishaya, in enjoying bad things of this material world. This thirst subsides. We don't have this trishna. And then bhagavat vishaya, sat trishnya anukula. On the contrary, we develop greed, trishna or thirst, Sat-trishna, to do something which is pleasing to the Lord, or which is in connection with the Lord, Bhagavat Vishaya. Simultaneously, these qualities appeared, very strong desire to do something good for the Lord. And then kripa means mercy, then kshama, forgiveness, satya, truthfulness, sharalya, honesty or simplicity, one become very simple. Samya, one become very peaceful. Dharya, one become very, how to say this, determined. Gambhirya, one becomes very serious, not, how to say this, not very light-hearted or whatever, how you call it. Not very fickle in the mind, not very, you become very serious. Manadatva, the desire to respect other people, real respect towards other people. And then 11th quality, amanitva, the humility. So this is the good fortune. These 11 qualities constitute the good fortune of a person, and if we analyze all these qualities, we can understand the root of these qualities. The root of these qualities is the detachment from the world. Why we become cruel in the heart, why do we lie, why we become very complicated and very proud, why we are always disturbed, why we are, trying to enjoy in this world and lose our seriousness, why we despise our people, because of one reason, because we are attached to the happiness of this world. And bhakti because it turns our consciousness within. Manorathena sati dhavato bahih. If the chariot of your mind runs towards the vishaya, the objects of enjoyment in this world, then you develop all bad qualities. And therefore, harafa bhaktasya kuto mahad gunan, you really cannot talk about good qualities in somebody who is attached in this world. But if you're becoming detached because you change the course of your energy is directed within the heart with the desire to please the Lord, then the only natural outcome is that you develop all this shubhani, all these good, amazing qualities of the Lord. Of the Lord and of the demigods. These all qualities are there. So this is how this Shubhada manifests. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, of course, says that please don't be in a hurry because it's a gradual process. We have to be very realistic. Bhakti is a gradual process. Bhaktir parishanu bhavo virakti. Anyatra chaisha trikaya kakalaha. He quotes this verse from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which says that gradually, prapadyamanyasyayat hashnatakstyud, like food, by taking food morsel by morsel, your hunger will become less and you become more satisfied and you become nourished by this. So it's a gradual process, but nevertheless, we have to have this indicator very clear. Gradually, all these qualities have to appear within our heart. At least we have to understand that I became more forgiving than I was before. Before I was less forgiving. Now I'm easily forgive, or still I become a little bitter within my heart, but nevertheless I'm easily forgiving. I'm more peaceful in my mind. I'm more patient, Dharya. I'm more, what else is there? I'm more ready to express my respect toward other people, and I'm more humble. I may not be as humble as Haridas Thakur. I may not be as tolerant as him and as forgiving as him. If somebody beats me, what to speak on 22 marketplaces, but even little bit, I may become irritated by this. But nevertheless, still, I don't keep grudges too long within my heart. So that's the gradual process of appearing auspiciousness due to the process of real bhakti. If real bhakti is there, Kleshagni will be there, Shubhada will be there. That's important. And now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur really starts explaining the faith. What is faith? He first, in this part which we described so far, he explained the qualities of sadhana bhakti, which covers all the stages from Shraddha to Bhava, including Asakti. From Shraddha to Asakti, all these stages, it's a gradual development of Shubhada, of auspicious qualities, gradual diminishment of negative qualities obtained due to our karma, gradual freedom or liberation from all these obstacles which are there within our heart. That's the gradual process. So he didn't start describing Shraddha yet. he gave general description of all these stages which belongs to sadhana bhakti. And he said that the root of this sadhana bhakti from the very beginning is the desire to do something auspicious to the Lord, anukulyatmaka. But now, and this is real, very important topic for today, he starts describing Shraddha. What is Shraddha? Tatra bhakti adhikarinah prathamam Shraddha. And the Shraddha first is the adhikara qualification from bhakti. And then he says, Sacha tattach shastrarthe dridha pratyayamai. The first characteristic, he gives two characteristics of real Shraddha, of faith. The first characteristic of Shraddha is shastrarthe dridha pratyayamai. It's a complete conviction in the meaning of the Shastra. That's the first characteristic. And the second characteristic of the faith, in other words, if you have faith, what does it mean that you have faith? It means that you are completely convinced that the Shastra, the meaning of, you understand the meaning of the Shastra, which is bhakti, and you're convinced in this meaning, that ultimately we have to practice bhakti. And the second characteristics of Shraddha is prakramyamana yatna eka nidana rupa tat vishaya katvaika nirvaha rupa sadara spriha cha. The second characteristic of bhakti is the prakramyamana yatna eka nidana rupa. Very serious, solemn determination or aspiration to attentively follow the process of devotion as described in these scriptures. It's spriha, it's desire to follow this nirvaha rupa sadara with a lot of respect. In other words, Shraddha, real Shraddha always has these two things. We believe in something which is written in scriptures, and we want to follow this. Because oftentimes people make this mistake. They think that belief is just belief. I just believe, that's it. Yeah, I believe, I have the faith. No, faith implies that you do something according to your faith. And in this case, if we believe in Shastra Artha, in the meaning of the Shastra, then we will try to follow whatever Shastra says to us with a lot of respect. Nirvaha Rupa, Sadara Spriha, desire to follow it with adoration, with respect. In the beginning, Adau Shraddha, in the beginning there should be some Shraddha of any process, but this is the special characteristic of Shraddha which we are talking about, which is transcendental. It's interesting that, in other words, what is Shraddha? Shraddha is a dynamic force. I quoted yesterday Bhakti Vijnana Thakur where he said, if you have faith, you will become very enthusiastic. You will have a lot of enthusiasm or energy to do something. Amazing energy which you never had before. This is, and everyone, every devotee has this experience, you know, he obtains faith and all of a sudden he gets a lot of energy and enthusiasm to do something. It vanishes after some time, but unfortunately. But this phenomenon is there and we all know this. So it's very interesting that in Yoga Sutra, because we just quoted Yoga Sutra following Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there is another Yoga Sutra in Yoga Sutra of Patanjali which describes the same sort of sequence or the chain of development. This is the 20th sutra of the first chapter of Yoga Sutra. I quoted it yesterday. Shraddha, Virya, and then Smriti, and then Samadhi, and then Pragya. There's 5 stages according to yoga. And it's basically, why I'm quoting this, because it reflects something which we also have in our ladder, in our staircase of devotion. It starts with Shraddha. Shraddha gives you energy and therefore Virya. Virya means energy, and therefore Bhajana Kriya. You start doing something very actively. From Shraddha comes Bhajana Kriya. Then, according to this sutra of Yoga Sutra, Smriti comes. Smriti means that you remember, you always keep your goal in front of you. You're not deviating on something else. And that's the, in our case, that's Nishtha. Because Nishtha, when we always remember, before that, we may be running here and there, but we often forget why we are running, what is the goal of our endeavors. We have energy because of Shraddha, we have energy to do something, but we forget about the goal. So when we reach the stage of Nishtha, stability, then we always keep the goal in front of us. That's Smriti in this sutra. And then Samadhi. From Nishtha we come to Bhava. Bhava means complete absorption in the spiritual practice, in the service of the Lord. And from Samadhi, the higher stage is Pragya, means realization or direct experience of the Lord, which is Prema in our case. But in the beginning there should be Shraddha. We cannot really do anything else unless Shraddha is proper. The face is proper. Therefore, I'm spending so much time in this. And what is Shraddha? Shraddha also means the freedom of doubts. Freedom of doubts, because doubt in Sanskrit is called samshaya. Samyak shayate iti samshaya, something which puts you completely in sleep. Samyak shayate iti samshaya. Something which makes you paralyzed. What is samshaya? Samshaya is this when your heart is split. You don't know what is right, what is wrong. Which of the two possibilities is right. And therefore, you cannot do anything. Why I'm saying this? Because again, Shraddha gives you the energy to act. Shraddha is a dynamic, active principle behind any action in devotional service. So when we have doubts, like recently I got a letter. Every now and then I get such a letter, the devotee expresses his doubts in the process of devotional service. And immediately he says, I cannot do anything, I have, I don't know what to do, my mood is very bad, and this and that. So that's when we lose somehow or other faith, or when our faith is covered over by ignorance, then we immediately lose enthusiasm of doing anything. And we don't have any energy, we don't have any desire to do anything. This is how it works. So therefore, Srila Vyasadeva commenting in this sutra of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, he says that Shraddha means clarity of the mind. It's very interesting also if we think about it. We come in contact with a devotee, and all of a sudden we feel that everything becomes very clear. when Srila Prabhupada explains something, we say, yes, it's very clear. It cannot be otherwise. Of course, then the doubts may come back and again cloud our consciousness. But in the beginning, this clarity of the mind is there. And that means that this magic takes place. That because of the contact with the pure devotee, we become very, very determined, and we know the goal, and this is the way, and this is what we should do, and we should not really waste our energy. So that's the characteristic of Shraddha, according to the first part of this definition which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives in this Madhurya kadambini. So let's talk a little bit more about this. Sacha tat shastrarthi dridha pratyaya mai. So it's basically the same thing which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Rupa Goswami, Shrabda Shabda Vishvasa Kohi Sudrida Nishchaya, Krishna Bhakti Kaili Sarva Karma Krita Hoi. Shraddha is this Vishwas, or the trust in the statements of the Shastra. So we have to know the meaning of the Shastra, and we have to be very clear about the meaning of the Shastra. That's the beginning, and because from the very beginning we cannot be clear about the meaning of the Shastra, so even before the clarity of the mind in the meaning of the Shastra comes our trust to somebody who is preaching the Shastra. So the first step in developing Shraddha is our respect towards a devotee. That starts first. We start hearing him. Why? Because we see somebody who is different from us. And we develop some sort of trust in this person. So that's the point number one. We trust the person, and because we trust the person, we want to hear what he has to say. If we don't trust, we don't want to hear what he has to say, because we know he's just lying. If somebody is a habitual liar, we're not necessarily eager to hear what he has to say. But if we have some trust in a person, in the integrity of a person, then we will have developed the desire to listen to him. And because of this desire, we will listen our listening will be with special quality. Our listening will be very attentive. And therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami, giving the definition of Shraddha with a slightly different angle, he says that Shraddha is this quality of the heart which helps us to understand the statements and the meaning of the Shastra. Please listen very carefully, even though you may not have trust in me, but that's an important point. Before we get Shastrartha Vishwas, the trust in the meaning of the Shastra, we have to develop trust in the person who explains us Shastra. And because of this, we will start listening to him or to her with a certain attitude, and this attitude will help us to understand the meaning of Shastra. This is what Jiva Goswami says in 171st Anucheda of Bhakti Sandarbha, that we may listen somebody is explaining Shastra, but because we don't necessarily have the trust in this person, the Shastra, the meaning of the Shastra will not be revealed within our heart. He will say proper things, but we will not be able to really understand this. And sometimes we know this experience. We heard many things, and then we listen to somebody and he repeats something which we heard many times. And then this, wow, aha moment comes. Yes, that's it, right. Now I understand. And that means that Srila Jiva Goswami says that the meaning of the Shastra will stick within your heart. You will not forget this. If you listen somebody without Shraddha, then something comes in one ear and goes from another ear. Nothing remains inside. So Shraddha means first you develop trust in a person, in his integrity, then you listen to him, and because of listening to him, you start understanding the meaning of the Shastra, what Shastra is saying. And you really realize, yes, that's it. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what it is. And therefore, as Srila Jiva Goswami says, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, that Shraddha means Sharanagati. When we develop this faith in the meaning of the Shastra, we surrender and we start practicing it. And the main characteristic of Sharanagati is fearlessness. We know that the Lord protects us, the Lord gives us whatever we need. We don't have to think about anything else, we should just practice. That fearlessness is the sign of Shraddha also. So that's the next step, because when we understand the meaning of Shastra, we surrender to Shastra and we start practicing it without thinking, yes, this is the true way, this is what we should do. I don't have any doubts or fear. So again, reiterate this whole path. It's not finished yet. First is respect to somebody who has bhakti. Then we listen and understand what he says. Then our doubts dissipate from the mind. Then the very firm faith in the meaning of the Shastra appears within the heart. We understand the logic of the Shastra, how the Shastra is logical. And then we surrender to Shastra, we start acting without looking, behind, without regretting that I left something. And then from that, from this Sharanagati, the desire to act appears. That's the second part of this definition of Shraddha. So the first part is that we first develop firm faith, and this firm faith is developed through these different stages which I explain now. So then the next stage comes. When we come to Sharanagati, Sharanagati means basically desire to act according to scriptures. Then the second part of this description in Madhurya Kadambini comes into play. Prakramyamana yatnaika nidana rupa tat vishayakatvaika nirvaha rupa sadara spriha cha. Very interesting word here is nidana. Nidana rupa. Yatnaika, we're trying, we're endeavoring with a lot of respect to follow the prescription of the Shastras. Nidana basically means diagnose. The Shastra makes diagnose, like doctor. Doctor comes to you, takes your pulse or takes your blood test or whatever, and he says, this is your disease, and he makes the diagnosis, and this is nidana, and then he makes the prescription according to your disease. So this is what Shastra is all about. Shastra gives the prescription. This is what you're supposed to do according to the disease condition which you have. And then we start acting according to this prescription, and we act, as it is said here, sadhara. We act with a lot of respect towards the Shastra. So that's the second part. And together with it, what Shastra gives to us, hope to achieve the goal. That's another feature of Shraddha. We very clearly understand through the interaction with the devotee, with the pure devotee, the meaning of Shastra. And because this meaning is revealed within our heart, we surrender to it and we start acting, and we cannot really act if we don't have hope to achieve the goal. We heard that bhakti is so beautiful, so amazing. So we have the hope. Sometimes this hope is really little disappearing, kind of. But nevertheless, we read Shastra, and again, the hope is reestablished. We hear devotees like Srila Prabhupada, for sure you will achieve prema, the pure love of God, and then again the hope is reignited. That's another feature of Shraddha, of real Shraddha, which we are talking about, of this Nirguna Shraddha. And then it's very interesting, basically, this is explained in Bhakti Sandarbha, how those who have faith, they're acting. They become very active, and they're acting till they reach the goal. They're not really complacent, and they will never satisfy till they reach the goal. Srila Jiva Goswami, he gives an example. If somebody is looking for gold, he will not be satisfied with silver because he's looking for gold. So the sign of real Shraddha is that I'm going to get Krishna in Vrindavan, not even Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha. We can see it in Brihad Bhagavadamrita, how Gop Kumar was traveling and how he always felt that something is missing. So Shraddha means I will go to the end, and please don't ask me to be satisfied with something less than the complete goal. Even though he may not achieve a success, he may not be, he feels that I am not achieving success, but still, because of this Shraddha, dynamic force behind our endeavors, we endeavor again and again and again. We commit some mistakes, but still we continue with the practice of bhakti. That's what Shraddha means. And therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami, he says very interesting thing, again, as a sign of Shraddha, as a feature of Shraddha. Somebody who has Shraddha, he never commits offenses. He never offends devotees. He never offends great devotees. If somebody offends great devotees, he doesn't have Shraddha. If you have Shraddha, real Shraddha in the Shastra Artha, the meaning of Shastra, you will never do this. You will try to avoid it. You will become very reverential. You will actually see other people as the object of your adoration, especially all the pure devotees or acharyas. If all those people who commit offenses, aparats in the internet, they don't have Shraddha, they lost Shraddha. Then fortunately, in this condition, when they are not, really even on the first stage of spiritual development, they somehow or other lost. And then another feature of it, somebody becomes selfless and he is not acting for his own benefit. He doesn't have any damba pratishta. He is not very proud person, and he is only acting for the benefit of Krishna and his devotees, for as the servant of his spiritual master. That's what Shraddha means. And now we have to honestly ask ourselves, do we have Shraddha or not? Is our Shraddha pure enough? All these features have to be there. May not be in complete 100% developed form, but at least they have to be there. This is the importance of this book, you know, to really see and analyze and do the introspection. Because sometimes we take it for granted, yes, I have Shraddha. No, Shraddha, Nirguna Shraddha is not a very cheap thing. And then, you know, you will never act against the prescription of the Shastras, orders of the Shastras. You will always act according to the Shastras. So this is the end of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's description of what means Shraddha. And then he says that this Shraddha is of two types. Svabhaviki and Balatutpadita. And he does not elaborate on this. Svabhaviki means very natural. This Shastriya Shraddha, Shastrartha Vishwas, the trust to the meaning of the Shastra, may be Svabhaviki. What Svabhaviki means? It means that it's basically coming from the association with sadhus. When we are properly associating with sadhus, then this Shraddha naturally develops within the heart. We listen them with proper respect, and then gradually, different features of this Shraddha will appear without any extra endeavor. And then Balatutpadita means forced Shraddha. Sometimes when we don't have the association of devotees, of pure devotees, don't value the association of pure devotees, don't understand that our spiritual development entirely dependent on this association. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido. Only in very close association with satam, with the sadhus, the stories about Krishna, the Krishna Katha, become virya, as Prabhupada explains in one of his lectures. They become like semen. They fertile our heart and they change our heart. And Bhavanti Hrit Karna Rasayana Katha Shradaratir Bhaktira Nukramishyati. So if we don't understand this, then we act in a society of neophyte devotees. And we also kind of pretend that we have Shraddha, but we act as if we have Shraddha. And we have Shraddha to a certain extent, but this Shraddha is not natural. It's Balatutpadita. You know, like when devotees are there, a society of devotees are there, we behave as a devotee, and when we are alone, we behave in a different way. It basically means that our Shraddha is Balatutpadita. And therefore, you know, during the festival, everyone is so happy and everyone is jumping and everyone is coming to Kirtan. But then, you know, in a normal way, one doesn't have enthusiasm. So it's a different kind of Shraddha which may also be there. And therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami calls it Lokika Shraddha. Shraddha which is more or less forced by the social pressure. The social pressure upon us is there, And even though we believe in the meaning of Shastra, which is bhakti, and we practice bhakti to a certain extent, we feel certain pressure. It's not natural, it's not coming from within our heart. This change of the heart didn't take place, and therefore Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ends his description of this Shraddha by saying that it could be of two types, and naturally what he wants to say to us, his message to us, is that we should try to obtain natural Shraddha, which is coming from the association of devotees. And then he gives only one sentence about sadhu sangha. Basically, he says that sadhu sangha means that when we come in contact with a devotee who gave us Shraddha, real Shraddha, then it's natural that we take initiation from this devotee. And after taking initiation from this devotee, he describes the 3 steps which we should do, what really sadhu sangha is. Sadhu sangha is we obtain Shraddha by listening to a devotee, we take initiation from him. It means that we surrender to him. We say, I will do whatever you like, whatever you will tell me. Then the next stage is we ask what we are supposed to do. We get the instruction from a devotee about sadachar. As Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, he prescribes us certain way of living according to Shastra, but he selects. He says, this is the prescription of the Shastra which you should do, and this you may neglect. You know, this is important, this is the principle. So many other prescriptions don't really pay attention to this. This is what's important for you in your condition as a surrendered soul. And then the next stage which sadhu makes, he brings us into the society of like-minded devotees who are favorable to us, who have this snigdha love for us, and who can nourish our bhava, desired bhava towards the Lord. Our spiritual master who created faith in us, he also creates a social, the little society of devotees. And he says, here is new member of your society. Please accept him. Please take care of him. Please help him to develop spiritually. Please give him instruction. So it's, again, this is essential part of sadhu sangha, the second stage of spiritual development, that our spiritual master introduces us into society of devotees, and we have to understand that this is the extension of his personality, and we have to value the society of devotees, our god brothers and god sisters, as something very, very important for our spiritual development, and behave accordingly in this society of devotees. So this is a little description which I gave. We have still some 15 minutes or so for questions.
One point is about this description. I have one question.
Yes.
You mentioned that it is very important that we get right type of seed, and you were comparing wrong seed with genetically modified seed. And further you said that if we get a wrong seed in the first place, then it is very difficult to change to the new seed. I very much appreciate this point, but my confusion is that the other day in the series of the classes that we are having here, we were discussing that one speaker said that the most important preaching strategy is to give people what are their needs, interests, and concerns. This appears to be in contrast to what presently you said. So this is a little bit, I wish that I request Maharaj that please comment on that, because that's a very important point, because it was stated this is the very crucial thing about preaching. See what people like, but here what we hear is not what people like, but actually what Krishna likes we should give. So can you kindly clarify that?
We definitely should say the truth. We should not try to please the people. If we're obsessed with pleasing the people, it can go a little too far. But of course, we have to say something which is relevant to people. And there is a difference. If we only try to please people and to say something which they want to hear, then it will be wrong. It's not a good preaching strategy. We will only get the cheap followers with completely distorted understanding of what bhakti is and what it may bring. So we have to give them real thing, but at the same time, we have to make it relevant for them. We have to somehow or other find the proper way of approaching them or explaining to them that this bhakti is relevant, is something which they need. It's not that we say, you practice bhakti and you become happy, and well, happy we may say, but you will become happy the way you want to be happy. You will become rich, you will become successful, you will become this. This is not so good. If we say this. And sometimes preachers do make this mistake, and that creates obstacle from the very beginning of our devotional path. Therefore, we have to say something which is pleasing in the sense that this is something which is touching to people's heart, which is relevant, which answers their cherished desire, but at the same time it has to be true. That's my only comment. It has to be true. It has to be relevant. So I guess this is what this devotee meant when he said that we should give something which they want. It means we should give them bhakti which they want, but in such a way that they understand that they want it. Not in such a way that they don't understand why you're talking about this.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
And Krishna, thank you so much for your very deep and insightful discourse. Taking forward this question, this Pratigam Shraddha, if somehow this person comes in contact with a pure devotee, then can we change to the real Shraddha? No.
Yes. If some of this person can come, definitely, it can change into a real Shraddha, no problem. But it may take, because it's an obstacle from the very beginning, he may not appreciate what pure devotee has to say, because he will be looking for something else. He came by being allured into getting something else, and then the pure devotees comes and says, pure devotional service ki jai. And then the person say, what are you talking about? So he may come, if he appreciates the pure devotee, he will get the real Shraddha from this pure devotee. But there will be some conflict in the beginning. So we have to be very careful by be conscientious of which seeds do we sow in the hearts of people, how we preach, how we present Krishna consciousness. It has to be relevant, no doubt about it, but it has to be pure also.
Maharaj, like if we do our introspection of our heart, what kind of quality of Shraddha we have, and if these symptoms are not appearing, so where to start the rectification process, which we should focus upon?
The start is very simple: appreciation of a devotee, respect for a devotee. That's the very initial point. to try to deepen our appreciation of what devotees have to say and what devotees bring to us. That's the initial point. Again and again listen and try to appreciate their message. Verbal message which they speak, and the message which they carry by being what they are. Appreciation of Srila Prabhupada, what he brought, his personality. Very good way of doing it is just to read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, or at least a abridged version of it again, and rekindle our appreciation towards the devotees and devotion and what devotion can do.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Savya Sachi Das. Thank you so much for such a eye-opening class. It really fits what you described as an opportunity for introspection. I have a question with regards to two types of Shraddha. One was the natural one, Swabhaviki, then the other one was forced faith. And part of that you mentioned that it's due to social pressure that one continues. Maybe is happy at the festivals, and then after that they're down again. I'd like to know, how do we begin to assist devotees who, through social pressure of the materialists, have become weak in their Shraddha, and weak also in the Shraddha towards the spiritual master, the devotee who introduced them. And now they are only depending on maybe some festival type of Shraddha to be inspired.
First of all, thank you very much for bringing this point. Shraddha in the beginning is very fragile or tender. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he compares this newly born Shraddha with the little baby girl. And he says that a little baby is very tender and very susceptible to all kinds of diseases. So initially when our Shraddha is very weak, it's very new, it easily gets all kinds of infections, like, little children. They very easily can develop all kinds of diseases because the immune system is very weak. And they are not very strong, and the fire of digestion is not very strong. If you have stronger fire of digestion, it may not be so difficult for you, but little children has to be protected. In the similar way, we have to protect our Shraddha by very carefully choosing our association, and especially close and intimate association. That's the first thing. We have to be very, very asat sanga tyaga Vaishnavachar. The Vaishnav is someone who is not associating with asat, with materialistic people. Not associating means not associating closely, not opening his heart. That's one thing. Now, how to help if this happened, if the Shraddha becomes even more weak or some diseases there, it's basically means that you should really develop some relationship with such people in a very close and intimate way, in a very selfless way. You develop relationship with such people. And if they understand that you are their well-wisher unconditionally, no matter what, they may experience some difficulties, but nevertheless, you as a preacher extend yourself, extend your help and ready to help in their difficult situation, then gradually, their weakness of the heart will be gone. This disease will be, the shraddha will be restored in their heart. And of course, by discussing with them Shastra, by coming back to the roots, is very important. Asking them questions, trying to understand. But basically, it's through associations, through this selfless association with them when you're ready to help. And sometimes, yes, spiritual master may be far away, but you as the genuine well-wisher and friend can help to strengthen the shraddha. And of course, festivals are good because they have some real experience, some enthusiasm. It's not that it's bad, but definitely we have to also give people some strength to practice outside of festival as well. Only through the genuine association, I would say.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Maharaj, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. Feeling very fortunate. Maharaj, in the beginning you spoke about Aishwarya Kadambini. Like you said that it's connected to a tinge of Mayavad. I happened to get this book in this Mayapur.
No, that's a different book. You're talking about Aishwarya Kadambini by Baladev Vidyabhushan, which is a completely different book. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that he wrote the book with the same name, but it doesn't exist. The Aishwarya Kadambini, which is available now, is Baladev Vidyabhushan's book.
Yes, Maharaj.
It's different.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Are you listening? Please accept my humble obeisances. This is your servant Nanda Kumar Das. Thank you so much for your wonderful association, your explanation. My question is regarding yesterday's topic and today's very nice explanation as far as I understood. Please could you confirm it with understanding or deepen it somehow? Yesterday you explained about Ritvik's philosophy that service to Prabhupada is sufficient, and apparently, how to say, externally it looks like this, that what more we should desire, that if we please great Acharya, so bhakti from his heart will fill up us and so on. But today's explanation very nice that if we reject devotee around us, we don't appreciate way bhaktis. It looks like we don't have shraddha, and that's why it's kind of this is kind of additional mercy for us when we appreciate Prabhupada's servants. We appreciate way bhaktis. Otherwise, we kind of don't use this adventure. Is it correct understanding? But what is the lacking of this philosophy that
this is
service to Prabhupada? It's what we all need. we don't need any
Yeah,
help in
this basically this philosophy or this sort of understanding is, Prabhupada is great, but he's a greatest spiritual master, but somehow or other none of his followers and disciples is a pure devotee. So what kind of glorification of Prabhupada it is? He's the great spiritual master who couldn't produce even one good disciple. So it's full of all kinds of contradictions, starting with this one. And ultimately, yes, if we appreciate Srila Prabhupada, we can appreciate his influence upon other people and see how the devotion of Prabhupada manifests in their hearts. And it does manifest in their hearts. And if we will be able to understand how they, cherish this devotion which they got from Prabhupada and how they practice it and go on further, then, there is no contradiction. We definitely should listen to Srila Prabhupada and to serve Srila Prabhupada, his mission, and appreciate his personality. At the same time, we have to understand his influence upon other people. Otherwise, how he is great. If we only glorify Prabhupada and denigrate or blaspheme all his followers, what kind of devotion it is? At one point, as I said, Shraddha means Sharanagati. Sharanagati means complete surrender. And surrender means, you ask somebody what to do and he says what to do. Because people don't do it, sometimes we can see it in our society, sometimes people starts following some regulations which Srila Prabhupada never gave. In Hari Bhakti Vilas, you can find so many regulations. Srila Prabhupada never gave these things for us to follow. But all of a sudden, people started saying that, this is the reason why we're not developing spiritually, this and that. Again, because of lack of surrender. Surrender means complete faith in a particular person and his understanding of the Shastra. We listen to him, how he explains Shastra. We understand Shastra because of him. We follow him. If we are the last authority to interpret Shastra, if we don't have anyone else, we might say Prabhupada, but Prabhupada is not there. He cannot say to us, you're wrong. We need somebody to say you're wrong, you're doing something wrong. Anyway, they have their Shraddha. We don't have their Shraddha, luckily we have our Shraddha. So our Shraddha is, Prabhupada always says that you need a spiritual master. What kind of faith in spiritual master, in Srila Prabhupada it is, if you, by accepting him, at the same time rejecting what he says. He says in his books again and again and again, you need living spiritual master. But you say, yes, we accept Prabhupada, and then, you take henceforward one word in the letter which is written by Tamal Krishna Maharaj from the words of Srila Prabhupada, and this henceforward becomes the instruction which somehow or other negates all other thousands of instructions which Srila Prabhupada gave in his books. How is that? How is that proper? It's very strange. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
There is
Okay.
a question from Valmiki. Prabhu, can I ask it?
Yeah, but it's already a little late. But anyway, if others don't mind, please.
So what's the proper way to understand the saying that this process is a gradual one and you should not be in a hurry? When we say this, what do you mean? I mean, how can we take this together?
It basically means that this
We
is...
are not supposed to do any endeavors.
No, I didn't say this. You know, I'm just repeating what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has said, and he says, by quoting this verse, Bhaktir Parishanu Bhavo Viraktir, Anyatra Chaisa Trikayaka Kalaha, that we have to endeavor by eating, we have to endeavor by practicing, but we know that by taking one morsel of food, we may not be already completely nourished. We may not, our hunger may not completely subsist from one morsel of food. We have to go on taking. But from the very beginning, we feel the difference. We feel that our hunger is less, hunger for material enjoyment is less. We have to be encouraged, because sometimes people become discouraged. We have to go on. Yes, you know, we still have to go on with this process. And gradually, this hunger will subsist, and the nourishment will take place more and more and more. And the taste will never decrease. The difference of this comparison with the bhakti, you know, with the food, when we eat food, at one point we become apathetic to food, indifferent to food. But with bhakti, we will never become indifferent. But nourishment will become more and more and more. Hunger will subsist ultimately, completely at one point. So, not be in a hurry means not be desperate, not lose hope, not become hopeless or lose faith in the process, that not everything is coming at once. It means that we have to go on, continue with our endeavors.
Спасибо вам.
Okay. Hare Krishna Valmiki Prabhu. Okay, thank you very much. My next class will not be tomorrow, because tomorrow is Ekadashi, and it will be on Friday, first session, whatever it is, 1 o'clock Indian time. So, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanand.